Well, we're used to seeing Dave Tippett on a bench or on a rink at practice, not necessarily with these gorgeous trees in the background. It looks like you're in a nice spot, Dave, but I know so many people are continuing to kind of make their way through COVID-19. What's it been like for, you and your family just awaiting some good news, which lately has been coming, and that includes the return of hockey, fingers crossed, quite soon?
Yeah, it's it was interesting few months just kind of waiting and see where everything was going to go. Most of it was spent down in Arizona, our home in Arizona. Last week, my wife and I decided to come up. We have a cottage up in northern Minnesota that we've had for a long, long time. So we came up and spending a week taking it back from nature, as we hadn't been here since last summer. So it's been lots of yard work and get a few things done. And, we had a conference call with our players last Friday just to go through things where they're at. So hopefully we're making progress and moving forward. And I was hoping to come into Edmonton last Monday, and when things got pushed back another week or so, I decided to stay here for a week. But I'll be hopefully looking to get up to Edmonton here in the next couple of weeks. And if everything keeps going the right direction, maybe we can get back to getting on the ice.
Well, normally this would be the time of year or close to it. You'd be headed to cottage country. Now you're headed away from cottage country. When you, heard the news from Mr. Bettman and Mr. Daly that the NHL was, starting to phase itself back with the intention of returning to the ice, what was kind of your level of excitement after waiting so long to hear some kind of news?
Well, you're awfully excited because, we felt like, the season was going pretty well. Like we built our whole year around earning the right to be a playoff team, getting in the playoffs, making sure we're prepared for playoffs. And, the year has some ups and downs, but the second half of the year, we felt like we were really pushing in the right direction. So when you get stopped, it's hard to take. So you had to, it took a couple of weeks to kind of catch your breath, understand what's going on. Understand it's going to be a while before we play, and just read and react accordingly. So it was disappointing to stop, but now the excitement of maybe getting back, and I think our players will be very excited to come back. We really, and talking to our guys, they're anxious. They have lots to prove. They want to do this right, and they feel like they put a lot of work in this year, and they'd like to finish this off. So. I'm looking for. I think we'll be a very motivated team coming out of the pause if we get.
Before you get to official training camp, as we await a specific date sometime in July, what do you and the coaching staff do with the players, or what can you do, from now until then in preparation for a quick return, a short camp likely, and then right into playoff or play-in type tournament games?
Well, there's not much we can do with the players right now. The staff, as a staff, we've had some meetings. We've had, each guy has kind of taken a certain part of our game and dissected some of that. We've had some conference calls with the players just to let them know kind of what we're thinking. But there's not much you can do with them. And if we can get to phase 2 here, players will get back on the ice, whether they're in Edmonton or wherever they're skating. I think it's important they get a couple weeks, at least 2 or 3 weeks of skating on their own. And what I've told the players is we've tried to make it so you think like it's a normal summer. So in a normal summer right now, this would be like an August for them, where they're starting to put the work in to get ready for camp. So you're 2 or 3 weeks away from camp. You get skating. Hopefully as these groups become bigger, you get more players skating together. And by the time they get to camp, they're in pretty good shape. But all of a sudden, it's different than just skating by yourself when a coach blows a whistle and there's a drill and you have to get going. So there's stages you go through, and we're trying to make this like a stage that this is late August. Continue to get yourself ready. And then if we do get a chance at training camp, it's very similar as last year at training camp. We get up and going. We won't have the 50 or 60 players. We'll have a defined amount, but you're looking for players really to pick up the pace again very quickly.
Dave, when you think of the matchup for you against Chicago in the, I'm going to say, opening round, what do you make of taking on a team that might be at the tail end of a lot of their success, but are still considered to be quite dangerous?
No, they're a dangerous team for sure, and it's we really try to express to our players, we have to be ready. Our team has to be ready before we think about anybody else. So that'll be our goal the first few weeks, is make sure that our game is in place and do what we have to do to win. That being said, you have to recognize that you've got a very dangerous team in front of you. You've got Taves and Keith and Seabrook and Kane. Seabrook, I think, is hurt, but they have championship pedigree. They didn't win championships without knowing how to do it. So you have to respect that. They have some good young players. So we'll, at the right time, we'll dig into Chicago and make sure we're prepared. But the first step is getting ourselves prepared, and that'll be our focus going into training camp.
When you do get into training camp, Dave, what are you looking to see, or what do you think you might have to tinker with, because you had such a good run pushing for potentially first place in your own division, and now you come back and go, okay, where are we at, and what do I still have to use in order to move forward to make a potentially long run in the playoffs?
Well, what we have is you know your players well, you know the roles they're fit into, and when we started last year at training camp, you're still looking for players and where everybody fits. So you have a good idea where the pieces fit. That being said, there's a review. Like, we want to make sure that structurally we're sound, the conditioning levels, who's maybe ahead, who might be dragging behind a little bit. All those things would be things that are looked at. And your special teams, you got to make sure are in place again. When you're preparing for a certain opponent, there might be some things that we want to do that we think will help our game against Chicago. So all the above. But as you go through camp, you're kind of going through the steps, what you'd normally do in camp, except that we're going to be down in numbers, and you know the people you have, and you've got to get ready in a hurry.
Dave, in 2017, when the Oilers nearly made it to the conference final, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, for the most part, were on different lines, and it really worked. You committed to that this season, and a lot of people feel that was a big reason that your club was successful. As you look at those two stars, superstars, what do you make of just maybe how they're feeling, what they're thinking about being back in the playoffs and being two of the main reasons that this team has had success and potentially could continue to have success?
Well, in talking to both of them, they're both, I would say there's two ways to put it. They're excited and very motivated, very motivated. They want to make sure that the work that they put in to get to be a playoff team is just the first step to start taking yourself to greater heights. And both of them have really, the players probably talk to those two more than others. They're both very motivated, not just to play well themselves, but to lead their team in the right direction. So that's a good thing for a coach. You've got players like that are motivated. I think that's a good thing for our team right now.
Dave, you've been through so many different playoff situations and scenarios and have had success, but just overall, when the game comes back, we're not certain where the hub cities will be. Edmonton might be one of them. We do know that there will be no fans. I wonder just what the coach's role will be, if any different in these circumstances than it might have been under normal playoff Stanley Cup chasing circumstances.
Well, it's going to be interesting, because the one part of it I've thought about lots is the emotion in the game with no fans. You're in a playoff atmosphere or playoff game with no fans. So it'll be easier on my voice, because you got to yell to make sure the players know who's up and who's going. So there'll probably be less of that. They'll understand a little more what's going on. But these are interesting times, and I don't know if you're really going to have a feel for it until you get into it. And a lot of factors come into play. It's where you're playing, the surroundings where you're at. It's the timing of it. Are you playing at noon? Are you playing at 7 at night? I mean, there's a lot of factors that come into it. And the one, I keep going back, the one thing you have to do is make sure your team is prepared to come in, and whatever gets thrown at you, you just adapt and deal with it, and you play. And those would be things that we're going to focus on. We have to play well. If you get in and you don't like your surroundings and you don't play well, shame on you, right? So you just have to read and react, and whatever comes your way, you have to just deal with it and make sure you're going to play your best and give yourself the best chance to be successful.
Dave, thanks for your time. Enjoy the last few days at the cabin, and then look forward to seeing you in Edmonton and potentially at Rogers Place sometime soon.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting back. I'm anxious to get back. We've got unfinished business.